This week on Alan's Antics. Now, I've got to ask you, do you know what gender you are? Are you a boy or are you a girl? It's a simple question, really. Do you have external genitals or internal genitals? Or are you somewhere in between? Never a question that used to be asked, really. When you ever looked at a form, it used to say male or female. Well, now it seems that anybody can be any gender they want, whenever they want. Have a listen to this.
President Obama now is trying to force all little girls and young women and women of all ages to have to shower with men in the locker rooms at every public school in the country.
So that's what Mark Dice has to say on the topic. But what do you think? I'd love to hear your responses. Whether you're a boy or a girl, whichever you've chosen to be, kinda. Have liberals just gone completely and utterly mad? Every now and again, I like to cover something that's kind of health-related and helpful, rather than just looking at the bad things that go on in the world and commenting on them. Well, here's something that's positive. Here's something that's helping Alzheimer's patients across the world. Take a listen.
Steve Newport's Alzheimer's disease has slowed considerably. Some of his symptoms even reversed, thanks to an unlikely treatment prescribed by his wife, Dr. Mary Newport, a physician who runs a neonatology ward at a Tampa, Florida hospital. She became determined to help her husband after he failed the so-called Alzheimer's clock test.
He drew a few little circles and several numbers, just in a very random pattern. Didn't really look anything like a clock. And the doctor pulled me aside and she said, you know, he's actually on the verge of severe Alzheimer's at this point. He's beyond moderate. So that was very, very devastating news.
Dr. Newport began learning everything she could about her husband's disease.
It appears to be a type of diabetes of the brain. And it's a process that starts happening at least 10 or 20 years before you start having symptoms. And it's very similar to type 1 or type 2 diabetes in that you develop a problem with insulin.
In this case, insulin problems prevent brain cells from accepting glucose, their primary fuel. Without it, the cells eventually die. But there is an alternative fuel, ketones, which the cells easily accept. Ketones are metabolized in the liver after you eat medium-chain triglycerides, which are found in coconut oil. So Dr. Newport added coconut oil to Steve's diet. Just 2 weeks later, he took the clock test again, and as you can see, demonstrated stunning improvement.
Now, this isn't going to be the definitive answer for everyone. It might not work for you, but at least maybe give it a try before digging into that box of pills that come along from Big Pharma, just for profit. From the mirror.co.uk, motorists charged with drug driving. In March 2015, new roadside drug screening devices were introduced, along with new driving limits for a string of prescription drugs. Since then, the number of people charged with drug driving, which comes with a 1-year ban, up to 6 months in prison, and an unlimited fine, not to mention a criminal record, has soared by 140%, according to a Freedom of Information request by Confused.com. Here's the government's full list of legal medication that can result in a drug driving charge. Amphetamine, e.g. dexamphetamine or silegaline, clonazepam, diazepam, flunitrazepam, lorazepam, methadone, morphine or opiate and opiate-based drugs, e.g. codeine, tramadol or fentanyl, oxazepam, temazepam. Now, this is of personal interest to me because at some point over the last 10 or so years, I've been prescribed some of these very same drugs. And yes, they do have a drowsiness effect. But of course, you have to remember that at some point you're going to have to drive. So you have to be very careful about when you take the drugs. but they're prescribed for you. And if your prescription says you take 3 of these a day, then, well, you're going to have a real problem on your hands coordinating your prescription, your medication, and your driving. Well, that, of course, leads to the question that if you're on any of these medications for legitimate reasons prescribed by a doctor, then should you just stop driving? And if you do just stop driving, how do you go about your daily life? For some people, driving is just the only option for getting about. This is going to force a lot of people to ask themselves every single day, take my medication and stay home and don't work? Or don't take my medication, drive, get to work, and not be able to cope? What do you think? Well, that was just a little snapshot of the week on Alan's Antics on RadioFreeUK.org. To hear the full recordings and a whole lot more, go to RadioFreeUK.org. And there'll be more next week. Take care and have a safe one.